Welcome to our first TrailNation Spotlight webinar, a new series that Rails to Trails Conservancy is hosting to highlight innovative trail network development across the country and foster peer-to-peer learning. This month, we're heading to Greater Cleveland, Ohio to explore the Cuyahoga Greenways. Elaine Price, the Planning Initiatives Specialist at the Cuyahoga County Planning Commission, will share insights into Cleveland's growing trail network and the role of the network in creating a more connected, active Northeast Ohio. We'll also hear from Liz Thorstensen, RTC's Trail Development Vice President, who will preview the upcoming TrailNation Summit set against the dynamic Cleveland network and will inspire collaboration and accelerate progress nationwide. We are so pleased to announce that RTC is now a certified provider of AICP certification maintenance credits. Participants for this live webinar will be able to claim 0.75 CM credits by logging into the APA, the American Planning Association website after the completion of this webinar and searching for this event either by its title or by the event number on your screen, and that will be put in the chat as well. We're kicking off this new series for the TrailNation Collaborative with a spotlight on the Cleveland area's Cuyahoga Greenways, and we hope you'll join us for the TrailNation Summit in Cleveland later this year. Over 3 days in October, we'll dive into innovative strategies for creating and expanding trail and active transportation networks through dynamic mobile workshops, immersive learning opportunities, and strategic conversations. More information, including how to register, can be found in the chat or at railstotrails.org/TrailNation Summit 2025. Liz will join us in just a bit to talk about everything that you can expect. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Elaine.
Hi, everyone, and thank you very much for joining us here on this summit. If you give me permission, I'll start to share my screen. There we go. And can you see that?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Great. So great. I'm so glad to be here. My name is Elaine Price. I'm with the Cuyahoga County Planning Commission, and we are thrilled that everyone is coming to Northeast Ohio to participate in the summit that's coming up. A little bit about my background. I'm actually an environmental biologist who spent the first third of my career in heavy industry, doing environment, health, and safety. I led one of our large nonprofits, the Holden Arboretum, one of the largest arboreta in the nation, and then I joined our public sector county planning commission, and I lead nature-related things, but primarily our trails and greenways activities. And so we'll talk a little bit about the Cuyahoga Greenways. So welcome. What we're going to cover today are some plans and progress that have happened, some facilities, unique programs, and kind of stay and play. So here's where we are. Ohio is along the Great Lakes. We are on the southern shore of Lake Erie. Cuyahoga County is where we are based, and the city of Cleveland is the county seat and the largest municipality that we have. Welcome from the Cuyahoga Greenway Partners. The Cuyahoga Greenway Partners is a collaboration of 12 different agencies and organizations that got together over 10 years ago to respond to the question, how do we get more trails and bike facilities built in Cuyahoga County? And we formed the Greenway Partners. It includes our agency, the city of Cleveland, our Public Works, which is our engineering department, the Metro Park system, our transit system. Rails to Trails is a member, our Ohio Department of Transportation, and even our sewer district. So we are not an entity, we are a collaboration, and we support each other and the municipalities within our region on how they can get more trails and greenways built. You want me to keep going, Mary Ellen? A little bit? You're muted.
That would make a difference. Yes, there's so much exciting work happening across the greater Cleveland area. What are you most excited about coming up?
Well, I think we're at a really interesting time because we, the Cuyahoga Greenway Partners, got together with funding from our metropolitan planning organization, NOACA, Northeast Ohio Area-Wide Coordinating Agency, and did a county-wide trail and greenway plan, which we wrapped up in 2019. And we are in the process of updating that plan. So there's actually 3 plans that are all coming together at the same time, and that's pretty exciting. So we are doing the update, but since 2019, we've actually constructed 28 off-street projects for about 20 miles and 22 on-street projects for about 27 miles. So we're looking at, ultimately reaching, 250 miles worth of projects identified in this plan, and ultimately getting to over 800 miles for our county. The city of Cleveland just completed their active transportation plan called Cleveland Moves, and they're being very aggressive about this. They're shooting for getting 50 miles built in 3 years for a total of 250 miles. Now, most of this will be on street, but they're really looking at all ages and abilities, improving traffic signals, improving intersection safety, installing speed tables, putting bike racks on parking meters, and ultimately having 70 shared mobility hubs for scooters and e-bikes. So that was just completed and launched. And one of the things they're doing are these streets for, kind of quick build. Literally, this is happening as we speak. There's 2 streets here. On the left, it's called Huron. On the right, it's Prospect. Both were 4 lanes in each direction, and they're dieting them down. So Prospect or Huron will be eastbound 2 lanes, and Prospect will be westbound 2 lanes, and the rest of it will be bike and pedestrian facilities. So that's pretty exciting to have those quick build projects. And then our Metropolitan Planning Organization, NOACA, just completed a 5-county regional metro park connectivity plan. That's where it kind of started. That's ultimately going to look at 1,100 miles of trail and connection facilities. You can see short-term 26, going up to 1,100. So that's all of these plans coming together at the same time is going to make for great collaboration.
That is absolutely incredible. And it's always really impressive when you can find the ability and the timing to sync up to get those plans together at the same time, because I know that that is often just the phasing of the projects can be really difficult for that.
Mhm.
So I'm really excited that folks attending the summit will be able to see all of these projects that are recently completed and all of the things that are in progress right now. Cuyahoga County and the Trail Network touch so many unique and vibrant communities. Can you
Mhm.
tell us a little bit more about what summit attendees can expect to see across the whole county?
Sure. And let's start with our core. So we consider Cleveland the core, and this is a map from our area. The gray squiggly line is our Cuyahoga River bumping into Lake Erie. But I'm going to quickly show you some images of some key projects that are happening right in this area. We call this area along the river in downtown the Flats, because it's the lowland, and it has just been booming with new apartment buildings and condominiums and restaurants and activities. So let's take a look at some of these facilities. We'll start with Wendy Park, which is on Whiskey Island. Whiskey Island was named because Irish immigrants who were coming over to work on digging our canal and even the relocation of our river, the new channel, settled on the island, and somebody put up a distillery, hence the name Whiskey Island. It is an industrial landing spot for shipping and also has railroads crossing it. So in order to get over to Wendy Park, which is on the island where the volleyball courts are and the little bar, you have to take a lift bridge over the river. And then our Metro Parks system just a few years ago put in this beautiful bridge to get across the railroad. and then built a trail from the beach area with some very creative engineering to maneuver through some very skinny spots. So a lot of coordination with the Metro Parks railroad coordination, but the Metro Parks led the initiative and garnered the funding of it with some of our foundations. Heading a little bit east, getting people to the lake is a high priority for us here. And there's actually a statewide initiative to have some type of trail system along the entire lakefront. So just last year, we did the groundbreaking. So this is under construction right now. It's called the Mandel Trail because of a local foundation. The Mandel Foundation provided a notable amount of funding for the trail itself heading along the lake. Let's also look at Canal Basin Park. Canal Basin Park is the northern terminus of our towpath trail, which is a 4-county trail that actually connects in for a statewide trail. And this 20-acre park area is just being developed now, and then people riding the towpath north will land here. And then the Red Line Greenway was built a few years ago with access along some active transit light rail lines. This was a Ford project 40 years in the making that finally then got built, and it connects one of our neighborhoods on the west side into the city, and you get this beautiful view of the city when you come in this way. And what's coming soon is Irishtown Bend. This is also part of the area where the Irish were, right along the river. But this project is actually happening in partnership because the slope of the land was sliding into the river. We are an active navigation river. And so funding came not only from our NPO, but from the feds through transportation, because we had to stabilize the bank of the river. And so this whole area is going to become a park with a trail coming up to it, which will then also connect to the towpath and connect down to the Whiskey Island area. So those are some of our urban ones. You want to look at some suburban ones?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so if we move out a little bit, we can see our inner ring suburbs have been also very active. We'll take a quick look at the Euclid Creek Greenway and actually the Euclid Shoreline one, some bike lanes in South Euclid, an interesting trail out of an old streetcar lane in Garfield Heights. So let's look at a couple of them. So this is the most magnificent trail along our lakefront in the city of Euclid. It's been nationally recognized because the private property, there are over 100 private property owners whose land actually extends out into the lake. So in order to be able to put a trail, there was some very creative negotiation that the city did with these landowners. They traded, so the property owners traded giving up access so that a trail could be built for, in return, a shoreline stabilization project that stabilized to prevent the erosion of their property. Also, pretty creative. The biggest piece of funding for this came from our casino revenue. And then we also got, quite a bit, or the city got quite a bit of funding from FEMA, because it really is an emergency prevention. So it's a beautiful trail, and they're going to keep continuing it and looking at driving economic development by actually eventually installing a marina and other waterfront type of initiatives. We have at our Metro Parks a reservation called the Euclid Creek Reservation. And then the Metro Parks also took on a piece of former state park property on the lakefront, and we're trying to connect the two. So last year they completed phase 1 and phase 2, on the phase 1 on the left and then phase 2 on the right. A piece of property that the Metro Parks owned years ago, sold to the school district, with a very intelligent clause to have right of first refusal. So when the school district no longer used it for a school, the Metro Parks was able to regain it and build a trail on here. So these are Tiger Grant and Raise Grant funded projects, and we still have about 2 miles to go to get to the lake. South Green Road in a city called South Euclid worked with our Public Works Department, who has a regular schedule for resurfacing roads. And Green Road was up for resurfacing, and the city worked with the county folks, did a road diet, put in bike lanes and these bike boxes. And so it's funded in part by our normal resurfacing, but also the city had to raise some money and put that in as well. It's been so popular that it is now going to be extended through 4 more communities heading south. Garfield Heights, this is an older inner ring suburb with this very wide Garfield Boulevard that was a streetcar line. Well, the streetcar has been gone for a very long time. So this was a total collaboration. The city would not have been able to do this on their own, but another road that was scheduled for resurfacing by the county, the Metro Parks were involved, and we got our sewer district involved to provide some funding for these bioswales that you can see on the left. So a road diet was done, a full lane was taken out, the sidewalk was taken out and replaced with a trail, and bioswales were put in. And about 2/3 of the corridor is residential and about 1/3 is commercial. So it's going to be interesting to see how the businesses start to react once people start using the trail. This is a very industrial road in a small community called Newburgh Heights. It's Harvard Road. And they took out a lane and put in some bollards as an initial step because they have a trail that's Metro Parks that goes down to the towpath. And what you can't see is on a good portion of the street is heavy industry. And so big trucks come through here. So it was also quite notable as to how to put this one in. If we hop over to the west side of Cleveland, a community called Fairview Park, it sits on one of our metro parks, but you can't get there safely because it's so steep. So just last year, we opened the Mastic Road Trail, which was a collaboration between the city, the county, and the metro parks. And if you look at that concrete area behind the cyclist, that is actually built up hanging over the valley. It's suspended over the valley because to his left, our right is the street with fairly quick moving traffic to get down here. And then coming soon, also on the west side, will be part of the West Creek Greenway. This is a rendering. The contract was just let last week, but it'll be connecting a residential area to a commercial area across West Creek through a woodland area. So that's some of our inner ring suburb stuff. Can I go on to our exurban?
Please do. Cuyahoga County, I think you've mentioned this before. I don't know if it was on this webinar, but the county is fully built out. So I know that there's some of the more exurban parts are really exciting too.
Yes, we call it exurban with some rural flair to it. So this is a look at the whole county, and here are a couple of trail projects that have either recently happened or are just about to get started. So let's hop over to on the east. We'll start east and circle around west. So Pepper Pike is a community that has a boulevard running through it called Gates Mills Boulevard. It's a very wide boulevard because the thought was possibly people will build houses in it. It's wide enough for very large houses. Well, our mayor was wonderfully relentless. We worked together, got some funding through our Ohio Department of Natural Resources. And literally, I took these pictures on Friday night at the ribbon cutting. And so basically, it's what we call a just add water park. So they took a big stretch of green space that they had to mow. Also worked with the sewer district because there's quite a bit of water and flooding in the area, and created really good landscaping, created this now linear park that has a trail through it. And there are 2 other communities through which this boulevard traverses. So we're looking at working with those communities to extend this out as far as we possibly can. Coming a little bit further south into a community we call Solon, there is a trail going in called the Solon to Chagrin Trail. And Solon is both a residential and an industrial community, and Chagrin Falls is a quaint little village that's kind of a tourist attraction. And there's a utility corridor. So the cities and the metro parks got together and raised some funding. And you can see Mary Ellen in the picture there. And we were wandering on this last week, and we're not going to say whether it was officially open or not, but it's going to be done by the end of the summer. It will cross a creek and then connect in with some additional trails that are both hiking and horseback riding. In addition, in Solon, there is a Norfolk and Southern abandoned railroad corridor that goes for several miles. And the mayor of Solon has been actively working with the leaders of the other communities, and they're in the process. They're almost complete raising the money they need to buy that railroad corridor to truly put in a rail trail that will come all the way into the city of Solon. But heading east, it will go into our next county, hook up with another trail that hooks up with Rails to Trails Industrial Heartland Trail Network. So that's exciting. To really be, and when we tell the people that this is not just for this one city, but this is for Northeast Ohio, and then it's part of this much, much bigger TrailNation network that drives some enthusiasm. Oh, I actually want to go back one, just this, everyone here is standing on the railroad trestle that's above the main street here. And the mayor here wants to turn that overpass into an event destination with a winery and brewery and other types of places that people can gather. So a lot of kind of creative thinking that's going on here. And then there's this little itty bitty piece. So the Metro Parks has a parkway called the Hawthorne Parkway. You can see it at the top and you can see it at the bottom. And the arrows are showing this tiny 1,400-foot gap. So the Metro Parks are working with the village of Glen Willow, and they're going to be building a trail to run along. There is a bridge that has to be accommodated to fill that in, and that will create over 30 miles of contiguous trail. This is the Valley Parkway of the Cleveland Metro Parks, which was completed about 4 years ago, and very similar. It was a gap between two existing trail systems put in by the Metro Parks. And again, when this 3-mile piece was put in, it opened up 30 miles of contiguous trail. And then let's look at one of our more eastern suburbs has a street called Wolf Road. And they're wanting to put a trail along the lakefront, but it's very difficult to do up there. But this is an alternative, again, partnering with the county. It was scheduled for resurfacing. They were able to put in bike lanes, and you can see the bike boxes and things like that. So those are the facilities that we have. Talk about what we're doing on them.
Yeah, that's so incredible. I really loved the photo of you with so many people up on that section of the trestle, sorry, of the overpass. And I really think that I'm going to add wonderfully persistent to my vocabulary. That was a good phrase to keep tucked away. Um, I really loved that picture of you guys up on that overpass because it showed so many people who work to make this work happen. And I know that you've done a really incredible job of getting folks from every walk of life really involved in the network development. So I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit more about some of the unique programs that you've developed that are really helping to drive the network forward.
Sure. One of I'm going to talk about 3 of them. There's so many, but let's talk about 3 of them. We'll kick it off right with Bike with a Mayor. We launched this initiative called Bike with a Mayor in 2023 as a way of saying, hey, mayors, do some engagement with your residents and get out and ride your streets or ride your trail. And this is a way for mayors to either feature a trail that's just been opened, feature a future trail or bike lane project where they want to do something, or feature anything else that they want to in their community. One of the mayors last year featured 5 different solar panel installations that were done on houses there. But it is a way, one of the comments I heard from my mayor was, wow, I really see my city differently by doing these rides. We have had anywhere from 10 people to 150 people participate in these events. We are entering our third year, but our results for the first 2 years, over 820 participants, 14 of our 59 communities, 22 events, 18 local businesses, get the pizza people to provide some pizza for after the ride or ice cream bars, 43 elected officials, 6 with our county executive. And I have a couple of mayors who said, Elaine, I don't ride, but I'll hike. And we also have had some communities where the city council people have gotten involved. So we have hike with a mayor and hike or bike with a leader. So it's really expanding. In fact, one of our mayors has even taken the initiative and created her own move with a mayor. So we have getting exercise, but it's really helping to drive buy-in. And when a community has a project and they need people to show up at the city council meetings to say, yes, we want it, this is a way of really getting that. We also have the Cuyahoga Valley Scenic Railroad. We have a national park, Cuyahoga Valley National Park. It's the only national park in the state of Ohio, and it's between Cleveland and Akron. And in it runs the Cuyahoga Valley Scenic Railroad, which actually goes all the way down to Canton. Several years ago, they started this bike aboard program. You can put your bicycle on the train, ride in either direction, take it off, and then ride back to where you parked. Guess what? It was so popular, and because we're right on the Cuyahoga River, which is a state designated and now national and federally designated water trail, we have kayak aboard now. Of course, you want to ride the train upstream so you can paddle downstream, but that is a really tourist initiative that's going on. This was one of my favorite programs that surfaced when we would run our every other year trails conference. And it's a partnership between the Cleveland Sites Center and the Cuyahoga Valley National Park and the volunteers. The national park has a building along the towpath trail where they allow the site center to store tandem bicycles. The site center brings visually impaired people down to the park. Volunteers meet them there. Obviously, the sighted volunteer rides in the front and the visually impaired person in the back. They get some exercise. They get to ride on a trail. They get to experience our national park, and they get time in nature. And it's just been a great collaborative that's been going on for years. So those are some of our cool programs. There's more to the region, though.
There's so much. And it seems like Northeast Ohio is really, really thriving. I'm wondering how you think the Trail Network is contributing to the quality of life in Northeast Ohio. It seems
Well,
like it's a lot.
it is, and I think I'll just comment on it by looking at our bigger region. One of our mayors has stood up in front of other mayors and said, this is what people want. If you don't get on this trail and bike lane, active living bandwagon, you're not going to attract. And those of us who are will attract. So it's the quality of life issues that we have. I love this trail. It is built over the Black River in Lorain County, which is to our west. And it is part of a connection between a city called Elyria and Lorain. And both of those cities were steel mill cities and lost a lot of economics, but now their outdoor activities with the river and the trail are helping to bring back some of their initiatives. If we go east to Lake County, this Greenway corridor, a rail trail, connects the city of Painesville and into the next county, and that's driving a lot of activity there as well. The Maple Highlands Trail in Cuyahoga County is one of my favorite because it's designed for hikers, bikers, and it goes into our Amish and Mennonite community. So it would not be odd. These are Mennonite young men on their push bikes, but you might see a horse and buggy, and that is a real sign. That is a real stop sign for the trail. Over where Kent is, the Portage hike and bike is drawing a lot of activity to support what's the development in Portage County, and particularly in the Kent State area. And it connects into the hike and bike trail in Summit County, which connects into a new trail called the Freedom Trail, which goes into downtown Akron. And last year, Akron announced that they're actually developing a kind of a citywide trail and bikeway network for downtown Akron. So that's great. And then head west to Medina County. There's a large lake there. It used to be a big amusement park that was torn down years ago, but they just recently opened this kind of north-south connector trail for the city of Medina and connecting some of the small communities there as well. And then the big one is our Towpath Trail, which is a 4-county trail from Cleveland through Cuyahoga, Summit, Stark, and Tuscarawas counties. And our convention and visitors bureaus, all 4 of them, have gotten together and they're doing a study and a promotion campaign saying, how can we use the Towpath Trail to drive overnight stays in our region? So when you get your convention and visitor bureaus very much on board, I mean, the tourism piece is a part of it, but I think the bigger piece is the quality of life, because people don't have to live where they work. But the other thing we're also doing are engaging businesses, say, rather than doing the annual golf outing, why not do a ride on a trail? Why not do a picnic in some of our park areas with your family? So that's what you can experience when you come to Northeast Ohio for the summit in October.
Yes, and we're so excited to be back. I've gotten to spend a little bit of time over the last few years getting to dive deep into Cleveland. And I'm so excited for us to get to do it even more this October and get to experience all that there is to play, all that there is to see and do in Northeast Ohio. We were having some tech issues with Liz, so she had to jump off. But I just want to very quickly, before we move into some audience Q&A, if we have any, um, just a little bit of more information about the summit. We are so excited to be in Cleveland. You get to see the Canal Towpath and so many really incredible trails across the area, and build some strong connections with people like Elaine, who are doing this work, and many others from across the country, and learn how not just to why trails are important, but how to really prioritize them in the work that we're all doing. Of course, there will be lots of opportunities for deep learning. And what is an RTC event if it's not also fun to be at? Building deep connections is a really crucial part of the summit experience and the TrailNation Collaborative. And we're curating the summit to meet the unique needs of communities across the country, much like in Cuyahoga County. Through our TrailNation work over the last 10 plus years, we've found that the challenges people face can vary really widely based on the types of communities that they live in. So through the summit experience, everyone will be grouped into cohorts essentially to help build that deep connection. I like to think of one of the outcomes of this, of having the folks that you need to rely on, not just a few days after the summit to add them on LinkedIn or what have you, but the people that you need to rely on for the years ahead as we continue to develop these trail networks. So we'll have folks in their little cohorts, in their really quite large cohorts, based on the type of geography that you work in. So folks who are facing the challenges that come with building in really deep and dense urban environments will be together. Those who are doing more suburban community work are facing kind of a different set of challenges sometimes. And then those who are doing work to build trail networks in much more rural communities, those 3 groups look very different in terms of the challenges that they're facing. So we're curating the content to meet everybody's needs in that way. And of course, we will have lots of time to go out and look at many of the trails that Elaine mentioned today. Um, so I also want to flag that the TrailNation Summit, much like this webinar, excuse me, is eligible for AICP credits. We are still doing the final math on the exact number of credits, but there will be at least 12 AICP credits for those who are eligible for that. And I believe if I did the math correctly, that is more than 1/3 of your biennial requirement that are due later this year. So hopefully it's a good opportunity for everyone to get those. And it looks like we do have some questions coming in. Okay, this is a good one. Are there resources available to help develop a trail network where I live? That is such a good question because it is exactly what we do every day here at Rails to Trails Conservancy. We have the TrailNation Collaborative, of course, which is our peer-to-peer learning network for folks who are involved in the many aspects of trail network development. So if you're a planner or an advocate on trails, we'd love to have you. But we are also welcoming and open to everyone in the full ecosystem of trail network development, including folks who are doing some environmental work or preservation or public health. The joy of trails is that they touch so many facets of our personal and professional lives. And the collaborative is here to support that work through our peer-to-peer learning opportunities like the TrailNation Summit and our Facebook group, as well as our TrailNation Playbook, which is the compendium of online resources that we have for the strategies to do trail network development. We also have the TrailNation or the Trail Building Toolbox, which is more geared towards our kind of single topic areas. Like if you have questions about rail banking, that's a great place to look for that. And we also have, as an advocacy organization, we have a lot of information around how to effectively advocate for trails and some of the funding opportunities available. So you can sign up. Hopefully they'll put in the chat links to both our TrailNation Collaborative newsletter and hopefully the Policy Inside track for those who are more on the advocacy end of the spectrum. And I'm going to just do a real quick check here if there are any more questions. If not, I think that we can probably, we'll do something unusual for a webinar and maybe we'll wrap up a few minutes early. Elaine, it looks like we don't have any more questions, but I so appreciate you taking the time. I'm so excited to see you in person in October and so many of our other incredible, incredible partners across the Cleveland area from across the Industrial Heartlands trails, which for those who don't work as deeply on that as Elaine and I do, touches much of West Virginia, Western Pennsylvania, and a little bit and Northeast, a big chunk of Eastern Ohio, and a little bit of New York State as well, crossing 4 states for thousands of miles of trail that will connect communities across that significantly large region. So we're so excited to have you all join us today. We'll have more of these sessions coming in the months ahead. And I want to send one final reminder that if you are looking for AICP credits, that you can look, it'll be in the chat to register for on apa.org or planning.org to claim your credits for today. Any final thoughts from you, Elaine?
Just really looking forward to meeting many of you and to hear how you are getting trails built. I think from the menagerie of collection that I presented is there's no one recipe, and
Yes.
every location, every partner, every community has had to, and obviously funding is a big one. How do we cobble together? Where do we get the different funding sources to add up to doing a project? And then there's an awful lot to learn, and there's an awful lot that we here in Northeast Ohio would like to learn from you about how to drive energy, support, and advocacy so that a project can get started and keep moving in a community. So we have a lot to share. We have a lot to show you, and we're also looking forward to learning your stories, learning from your stories as well.
That's such a good point, Elaine. I'm so excited to have the opportunity for so many people to meet together and to share what we're working on across the country. There's more than 150 trail networks in development, which is a lot. It's really incredible to see just how much this movement has grown and to have the opportunity to gather so many people together in Cleveland later this year. Thank you all so much for joining us. Again, in the chat is information to make sure that you register or claim your AICP credits and credentials, as well as information to join us at the summit or for future webinars. Thank you all, and we hope to see you soon.